back in the open room.
Right, exactly. Same one. All right.
Are you satisfied with this event, Morris?
The event didn't take place yet. How could I be this satisfied? It's impossible. I'm on the air right now. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Are you going to do the same thing on your 90th birthday, or have you had enough of this already?
I never even started. This is my sister,
Hi, honey.
Libby, and her friend Mel.
It's an honor to be here today.
Matthew Paris, the greatest handball player of
Forget
all
about him. I'm great. Who's better, me or Stevie?
I gotta check the record. You're both good.
He's a schmuck, right?
I think probably the more graceful one has to be you after seeing Stevie jump.
You're here.
Stevie had a fight with Albert. That's why he's
I know the whole story.
Albert's a schmuck.
He wanted to change all the rules in the gym. The whole story. The whole picture. I'm glad you showed it. But you're ready to become a coach.
Zeigesund. And a big gesund.
You know, actually, Morris, I'm sure that Stevie, would probably admit that he was less graceful than Joe, but whom do you think would have won?
You know, that reminds me of a joke. The joke is why a woman can't be president of the United States.
Why?
She's got to be over 35 and she won't admit it. So don't pick on Stevie Sack.
Okay,
You're going to be graceful in what way? I told you an old joke.
Yes.
Did you like it?
Yes, I did. Okay, Morris, thanks.
Okay.
At the Brighton Beach Bath, Roger and I checked the drawer to see who we were playing in our next round. Well, I saw the name of Steve Sandler, coupled with my name. I said to Roger, oh, an expletive deleted here, I'm playing Sandler tomorrow. What strategy should I use against him? Roger said, why don't you ask Morris Levitsky, the referee? He knows Sandler's game. I then approached Morris and said, Mr. Levitsky, I don't think anybody ever called him Mr. Levitsky, but anyway, Mr. Levitsky, what do you think would be my best strategy against Steve Sandler? Morris asked, what time are you playing him, lad? I said, 10 a.m. tomorrow. Morris said, my advice to you is that you make sure you show up early, about 9 a.m. for your match with Stevie. He gets angry when his opponent doesn't show up on time. Okay? Okay, thanks, Mr. Levitsky. That was it. At any rate, he says, Morris, I'm sorry I couldn't make your celebration, but my heart is with you, and I wish you the best of everything. God bless you. Now, I first met Morris Levitsky when I was 19 years old, and I started. Oh, you can't hear? Okay. How are we doing here? I first met Morris when I was 19 years old, and I started going to Coney Island to play ball. And I must tell you that Levitsky looked the same then as he looks today. Now, this, of course, how are we doing? This could be a great compliment to the man, meaning that at the age of 8, he looks under 50. Of course, if you look at it in the reverse, it's a terrible insult, which means that when he was under 50, he looked 80. On the other hand, when you're 19 years old, I think anybody who's 30 or more looks 80. But Levitsky did something strange on that day. Made me think, in fact, that perhaps he was insane. He volunteered to referee a game between me and a very easy guy to ref for, Marty the Farmer Cushman. You see, where I learned how to play handball at Avenue P, a referee, in order to become a referee, had on his job description willingness to get the hell knocked out of him. But Levitsky did referee our game, and he went away unbruised. He was okay. And I then began to realize that as I continued to come there, Levitsky was always there refereeing games. I started to think, what does this man do for a living that he is there reffing all the time? Now, he just said to me, Levitsky, don't tell the FBI. The one time I must tell you, Levit, I thought you were a spy. I really did. One of my students, you might remember his name, a little chubby fellow named Jay Hockfelser. Remember the name? Well, anyway, Jay is telling me over at Lincoln High School that someone was talking to him about me, and his name was Jerry, and he describes to me Morris Levitsky. I said, well, his name isn't Jerry, his name is Morris Levitsky. And he says, no, his name is Jerry. And we bantered this back and forth until I approached Levitsky a few days later and said, Levitsky, some kid of mine knows you, but he says your name is Jerry. And Levitsky says to me, yeah, that's right. At the candy store, my name is Jerry. Well, why is your name Jerry? It's just Jerry. Well, okay, years went by after that, and Levitsky did some work for the Board of Education, refereeing some games for us. And when I had to fill out a form for him, he tells me, don't put down my name as Levitsky. My name is Novitsky, N-O-V-I-T-S-K-Y, Novitsky. So he's Morris Levitsky, Jerry, or Jerry Novitsky, or Jerry Levitsky. He's one of those names somewhere. And now you might think he's a spy somewhere. But I haven't told the FBI. Now, for years and years, Levitsky has also been talking about the same thing. I love talking to him about it. I have a feeling that anybody else who has also loves talking to him about the great players of the past and the present great players and what's happening with handball and, of course, all the technicalities involved. All those technicalities. What's a block? What's a hinder? And I have to say, when you discuss that with Morris, I generally yes you, and I say yes, because frankly, I don't really know what the hell you're talking about, Morris.
Ask me what the definition of a block is.
If I ask you that question, I won't be able to speak anymore. Okay, what's the definition of a block ball?
When the referee calls a block, it's a block ball.
Well, eventually I did find out what Levitsky does for a living. Levitsky was a sheet metal worker. I found this out when I interviewed him for an article that I wrote for Handball magazine when he won the Bob Kendall Award in '92, I think that was.
He's thinking very well.
Yeah, a sheet metal worker. I can just picture these long strips of metal with little round dents in them hanging somewhere in the world. He also built pontoon bridges when he was in the Army. I had to look up what a pontoon bridge is. I found out what it is. It's a good thing that in Europe, when Levitsky was there, they didn't have one-wall courts because I think a lot of pontoons would still be standing on one side of the river. Right. When Levitsky wasn't refereeing, one of the things that he did was play word games. A master of word games. There was one particular game, it wasn't exactly a word game, but it was a game about movie stars. And I really wish I remember how it went, but it was a wonderful game that he used to play with his friend Leo down there. And it was partly his love of words and partly his ability to play these games that made me want to speak to him about every article that I've ever written for Handball magazine. I don't think there's one article I've ever written that I haven't handed to Levitsky before I sent it in for publication, because I know that he just loves reading them, and I do so and enjoy talking to him about them. Interesting though, his favorite word that I ever used in any of my articles was the word curmudgeon. If you don't know what the word means, it means grumpy old man. He loved that word. Now, this is a room filled with people who have all kinds of awards. Some of you guys out there were very greedy, in fact, where the first place awards were concerned. Guys like the Oberts and Sandler and Dreyer and Torres, you wouldn't let us guys get in there with those first placers. But Levitsky is a guy who's got a lot of awards also. I don't think he totals as many as handball players, but he's got quite a few. Brighton Beach Bats representative, Metropolitan AAU chairman at one time, East Area Commissioner, which he took over from Irv Ehrlich. Is that correct? Right. And in addition,
Mostly correct.
okay. And in addition to that, I don't remember the year, but Levitsky has his own handball trophy from having come in second place in the Masters. His partner was Nat Shifter, and he lost to a fellow called Happy Wackler, I remember Happy, and Meyer Seltz. So many of you may have remembered Meyer Seltz for those big hooks that he had. Well, one of the things I want to do before I sit down is to even up the awards. I have consulted my crystal ball, because I haven't consulted any of the people out here whose names I'll mention in a few moments. And I've decided that I'm going to give Levitsky some additional awards so that he can boast that he has as many awards as any handball player sitting here. Okay? Hold this for a second. I've said most of this already, don't get nervous. Thanks. The first award is for the worst avoidable hinder call ever made. It was made, I believe, somewhere around 1967, 60. I don't remember exactly what it is. Levitsky said he actually lost sleep over the award. But imagine the guy who had the call made against him. I mean, I'm talking about the one and only Carl Ober. And I'm giving you this award, which says Worst Avoidable Hinder, presented by Carl Ober. Carl, you must have given me a shot.
While Danny is telling, still on the air, the only man involved, I and Mickey Fleck, who had a final match replayed. No one ever heard of such a thing in their entire life that actually took place.
Because that was a stupid call.
Colonel Obert, you look like the bearded lady, man.
All because Sam Silver said, block ball, you're stepping. Up, his hands rang out and says, stepping, you're stepping. He goes over, he says, he's stepping into the ball, it's an avoidable hit ball. The match wound up, for those of you who don't know, this match wound up in the New York Times with a picture of him, with pictures all over it, screaming at Levitsky. And you know, and the unfortunate thing is, even though this goes back many a year, because they called it an avoidable hinder, and because he called it an avoidable hinder, and Carl lost his serve. You know, in this sport, as in all sports, there are certain days that all of us are on. You know, no matter what you do, you're service hitting, you're shooting kill shots from the long line, they fall in. Other days, you're not in that zone. This particular day, Carl was in that zone. But because of that moronic call, they had to replay the match.
Okay, that's it. Over here. Good night, little lad. Neil tells a beautiful story, but he didn't hear the exact words of Samson. Block ball, you're crossing the ball. Not that you're stepping. Block ball, you're crossing the ball. And you handball players, when you hear such wording, I was not the referee. I was calling the short line. Sam Silvers was the referee, and I walked over to Sam Silvers and says, I played it stupid. Sam, what was the reason for the block? He crossed the ball. I said, Sam, you know, when a man crosses the ball, he's out. He says, you're right, I should have called it an avoidable hinder. So now the bearded lady made a beautiful speech.
But the point is, if any of us were playing when Sam Silver was alive, you know that Sam Silver, every time he called the block, he would say, block ball, you're crossing. It doesn't
He wasn't crossing.
Why didn't you get involved when you were a lineman and not the official referee of the game? You were a lineman. Just pull the line and shut up.
That's the trouble with handball today. The man on a short line watches, don't open his mouth, don't even call two bounces, and stay there like a dummy. I was be a dummy.
Okay. Now, by the way, concerning this award, there is somebody else who happens to think it was the best avoidable thing to call on the call. Okay, now.
What you saw that day?
I think we can take a vote.
Second award. The second award is for the worst skip-in killer call ever made. This happened in 1985 when Albert Apuzzi was playing Eddie Golden in championship match. First game, Albert hits what almost everybody in the park sees as a flat killer. Levitsky, accompanied by his compadre Mickey Blackman, discuss the call, and they say the ball skipped in. Albert proceeds to lose the match in 3 games. Eddie Golden won a championship. Worst skip-in killer call.
Yes, yes.
Put us down low. I was on a short line. My friend Mickey, you know more about rules than all you people all put together, walked over to me and said, "How'd you like that shot?" I said, "It didn't look good to me." He said, "I didn't think it looked good to me either." So I didn't yell out the shot was no good. We both agreed that the shot was no good. Unfortunately, the people sitting near the wall all thought it was no good. But Danny Quickstein, who knows so much about him, we haven't even finished eating yet. Gives his opinion about my compadre, like he's a Cisco kid.
Okay. The next award is called Failure to Call Screen Ball Award. And this is
no thing as a screen ball.
Block ball on the serve.
One ball. Made 2 errors.
Well, this award is given for failing to call screen ball in matches against Stevie Sandler.
Yes.
And the presenter, by a host of players, but this guy led the presenters, that's Mike Dickman.
Yes. Mike, raise your hand, Mike. Thank you.
Mike, can't talk. They purposely shut off the mic on me. Can you take a picture of this? It's too bad you can't get it in words. In one wall, you handball players know, although there are a lot of stupid referees that keep saying screen ball. That's a 4-wall call and a 3-wall call. In one ball, you're allowed to screen the ball as long as you don't move. Many a time, Al Torres has lost championship matches. He served the ball so close to his body where his opponent couldn't see the ball. Al never moved, and yet the dummy called it a screen ball. It's perfectly legal. Whatever you're allowed to do, whatever you're allowed to do, you're allowed to do on the serve. Screen ball is stupid. It's a block or a hinder ball. That's what it's called. In 4-wall, it's a shadow ball or a screen ball.
The next award is for the worst seeding in a tournament. Worst seeding in a tournament. It's the worst. It's the ultimate. Now, I recall one particular day, I'm down in Coney Island, and generally I was a seeded player. I finished my first match early, and I walk over and I watch one of our established players, who happened to be Neil Boshin, And who was he playing against?
Ruben
This is his
Gonzalez.
first round? Ruben Gonzalez.
Sorry.
And Ruben takes Neil into 3 games. Neil barely squeaks out the match. And of course, afterwards, runs over who seeded me against this man. Well, 1 year later, here we were at Brooklyn College. And again, I finished my match early, and I see 2 courts down. There is Neil playing against this young, lanky, left-handed guy.
John Edwards.
John Edwards. And again, Neil goes 3 blisteringly hard games with a guy who hits as hard as he does, who has an opposite hand as good, who is just as fast. Well, maybe it was in the second round.
No kidding. You made a note. I gotta remember what.
So the worst seeding award from your best friend, Neil Potion.
Champion once said to me, in order to win the tournament, you gotta beat everybody. So this business with the seeding, probably because this guy wants to play at a special time. I always did people favors. That's one of my biggest errors. Mike Dickman had to play 8 in the morning. I got him somebody to play 8 in the morning. Charlie Sheldon had to play 1 in the afternoon. How could I just put one guy against the other when I want to keep everybody happy? Next case, so long.
Rolling today. He's rolling good today.
As a tournament director, one of the things that I would assume a tournament director is responsible for is for controlling the crowd. Now, here is a failure to control crowd award for Levitsky. And the reason is that this particular player really needed a great deal of room to play. In fact, he would get aggravated if there were guys standing on the boardwalk. And I think he wanted those guys on the boardwalk moved into the ocean. And since Levitsky could not do that, Charlie Sheldon is going to have to
Charlie had to play at 1 in the afternoon. He was in his house, he had to stand on his head from 12 to 12. Okay, next case.
Thank God I knew it.
The next award is for allowing unfair timeouts to be called. And this is presented by any man in this room who ever played against Howie Eisenberg. And if you never played Howie, you didn't know what I'm talking about. I mean, a magnificent handball player, but he called timeout for wetting the floor, for drying the floor, for changing his shorts, for changing his jock, for whatever you could think about.
Wiping his eyeglasses.
Right, wiping his eyeglasses. Right. Okay, next award.
Who was that?
I didn't see any cash here. What's all these awards? What I get?
Just the catch. I think you said it not that great.
Upside down.
Yeah, after the first game.
Actually, there was stuff in the cup.
I know. Never paid him again.
Now, the next award, everybody knows, it's a must for a referee to remain unbiased. But I don't know that everybody thought old Levitsky was unbiased. So here we are giving him a favoritism award, and it's being presented by Roger Casuso, Billy Farber, and Danny Maroney, guys from practice in the Queens, because he thought he always favored the Brooklyn guys.
Yeah. However, when the people came to their tournaments, they always favored the Bronx guys. So what are you supposed to do now?
It's the first one
Home court advantage.
Before, something was mentioned by Levitsky about asking another referee an opinion. To the best of my knowledge, Levitsky never asked anybody anything because he thought that anything that he ever said was absolutely infallible. He and the Pope, shared the same seat. But a number of players, one in particular that I recall, always wanted to ask the other guy. Ask the other guy, go to the back man, go to the side man, go to this man, go to that man. None of you got to know who I'm talking about. It's not you, it's your partner, right? This is the award for infallibility from Stevie Sandler. I'm never wrong.
they spell
Wait a
it
minute,
right?
nothing to say regarding that?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Oh, yeah. When I spoke to my friend Mickey Blackman
Everything is my friend Nicky
2
Blackman.
nights ago, and I asked him about myself, he said, you know, you have a style of favoring Stevie Sandler.
Oh, this comes as a shock to us.
It's no shock to me, but why should I knock the guy? He never even showed up. Why should I talk bad about him?
Okay? Now the last one is from being the most impatient tournament director. If you've ever watched Levitsky deal with some of the older folks, younger folks, I'm going to say older folks, but I guess it's anybody. Ask him a question. Ask him a question about the draw sheet.
Not during tournament time.
And what Levitsky's answer is, yeah, you chaya, you moron, you this, you that. So for calling people chayas and morons, he has gotten the award for the nastiest tournament director. Oh, that is presented from the octogenarians at Seabreeze Park.
They go anonymous.
All of us.
Just a serious word at the end. Levitsky is a lot more to me than just a referee. He is a man full of vigor, and like some people are connoisseurs of wine or cheese, this man is a real connoisseur of handball, and I think it's the reason why all of us love talking to him about handball so very much. This is a man who appreciates the great champions like the Sandlers and the Oberts and the Davidoffs, the Hershkowitzes of old, and he appreciates also the near great players like some of us sitting here in the room, the Ginties and forgive me, Joe, I should have mentioned your name, and Albert among those great players. Certainly you guys have established yourself. I'm sorry I left you out. Al Torres, Artie Ryer, great players. But again, the near great players like Graham and Mike Dickman, that is, Eddie. I guess myself, thanks, Neil. Real appreciation of those two. And now, of course, he appreciates some of the new champions. Ed Masonet, who has now won 2 years in a row. Paul Williams, who's established himself. And Al Torres, who's still a new guy. He just doesn't seem to grow old now. I have this premonition that in another 20 years, when Levitsky turns 100, he'll still be down there refereeing games, and you know what? He'll look the same as he looks today.
That I was being roasted. Believe me, I forgot all about it. I thought the guy was picking on
You know, since we all have a lot of things to say, rather than run it in a kind of a systematic